What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Jets Radio, the fan series. This is all about interviewing fans, talking about the past, the present, the future. If you want to be on this, it's very simple. Just email us or direct message us at Talk Jets Radio on Instagram and Twitter, or message me, Tyson Roush, TRAUCH21, and we'll get you on. This one's going to be fun because we got someone with the same name as me, so we're going to bring on Steven Tyson. What's up, man?
Hey, nothing much, man. Just ready to talk some Jets football and excited to get to it.
Well, let's start from the beginning, man. What made you a fan of the green and white?
Yeah, so I think in general, so I'm about 23 years old now. I'll be 24 in November. But just learning how to play football, I think very simple. There's this, 2K made football games back in the day, and, this 2005 video game on, old PlayStation games, how I learned the rules. And then, my dad was a Jet fan and so on. But that's really when I stuck to it. So I would say started really following the team, I'd say, in 06, 07, but I really didn't remember a season until Favre was here. I'd say that's really when I remember the years going forward.
Yeah, the Favre season was something else, man. I was so excited to have him here. It was having a legend here, like a Hall of Famer, like Brett Favre's a Jet, and then it ended in just a complete debacle with him getting hurt and them losing out. I mean, that season was painful, man.
They were 8-3 at one point.
Yeah, they were the best team in football, man. I was like, this is the year. They're gonna win the Super Bowl. They were playing at that high of a level.
It was unreal, but just then Mangini just leaves after 1 year. I don't really know the entire story. I know he kind of shoved his way out at the same time, but I was disappointed.
Well, they screwed him over big time, man. I mean, they wanted to change, but he didn't even want Favre. He wanted to keep Pennington and keep his program going. He kind of inherited Favre, and I know I hate the way he went out. And then, what were your thoughts on the Rex Ryan years?
Well, the first 2 years were great, don't get me wrong, but I feel like, that wasn't his roster. He inherited a great roster and went on a great run with it. So I respect everything Rex does, and I had a great time as a fan watching even the crappy years. I thought, the team still had energy to it. There was never a dull moment, even in those losing years later in his tenure here. But I have a lot of respect for Rex. I think he's still probably the best head coach we've had in a decent amount of time. He's probably still the best compared to Bowles and Gase since then. But yeah, Herm Edwards, I remember a tiny bit too, but Herm was an opposite coach, but I do respect both of those guys.
So who are some of your favorite players as you look back at the Jets?
Oh, man. Santana Moss is up there for sure. Darrelle Revis. How can you not love him? It's similar to what's going on with Jamal, but I hope that we actually avoid that. But even just Brandon Marshall in the 2015 Jets. I think that's one of the few years I remember that was just a kick-ass season. Obviously we remember 2009 to 2010, but that's the only break this decade where we had some winning football. So I had some good times on the 2015 season too.
So you mentioned the Jamal Adams thing, and that's funny because it looks like it's going down the same path as Revis. What are your thoughts on that? Are you about paying him, or are you about making him wait?
Well, the thing is, I feel like the Jets should just pay him now, to the extent that I feel like, we had a decent offseason. I don't believe in Adam Gase, but I do believe in Joe Douglas, if that sounds funny. But just a lot of the things Joe's done has made sense. So I hope that he just pays Jamal just to keep the season going. I feel like we had some positive momentum for once. So, and if you wait till next year, let's say he has another all-pro season, especially since this is a harder schedule, I think you're going to have to pay him even more next year. So I think, just bite the bullet and move on and just keep him here.
Can you see this getting ugly in terms of him holding out through training camp and stuff like that, or do you think that's kind of what I think is going to happen?
I think he'll hold out if it gets to that point, but to be honest, I think he'll play this year. Maybe he'll at max skip a game or two, which I don't want to see, but I think he loves the game too much to stay away from it. Even if he was trying to attract another team, I'm not sure how that would go. But yeah, I can see a lot of noise in the media. When is there ever a dull moment with the Jets in the media? But I don't know. It can go either way, but I see a holdout if we don't progress anytime soon.
So it's funny you mentioned the media. How would you categorize the media's covering of the New York Jets? Do you think it's kind of biased? Do you think it's always negative? How would you categorize it?
Well, I'd say from an overall, if looking at the top of the whole league, I feel like the media just loves the crap on the Jets. I feel like they're a league they're a team that makes their own mistakes, so they just fall into these traps over and over again. So I feel like the league loves to do it. But that's why, I love just watching you guys and a lot of other just, fans work, because I feel like, as a fan themselves, I'm getting the best news, and they actually understand what it's like to be a fan. They're not just saying oh, Jets did this, Jets did that. I think, if you actually look, a lot of the stories just are biased against the Jets. I mean, a lot of them are true, but there's always a spin on it that I don't like a lot of the times. That's why I like, the fan reviews and everything like that.
So how would you categorize being a Jets fan? What is life as a Jets fan in your opinion?
Just disappointment. But we always go back to it. It's the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. I mean, every season we have, even the losing ones, there's some dominant games that you'll never forget about. I mean, even Darnold's rookie year. I mean, I remember the Colts game was one of my favorite ones, and that was a 4-12 season. And we lost this one too, but the Texans game where Darnold went off on Saturday night, that was one of my favorite games too. But I think I'm numb to it, which is sad to say, but I'm just numb to how this team's gone. I mean, most of my life, I think I remember only 3 good seasons because, I got into the team in 07, 08. So it's really just the 2 championship runs and then 2015, which was a big disappointment in the end.
Yeah, that was crazy painful. Now, you mentioned the head coach a little earlier. What are your thoughts on Adam Gase after 1 year?
Well, I'm not going to play all these cards and the excuses, but he has no excuses going into this year. I think it would have been hard for a lot of head coaches to really shine with their program going into the last year, given some of the circumstances. I mean, Maccagnan being separated in the draft, I think that's just unheard of. Teams not being on the same page with their head coach and GM. So I don't think a lot of people would have succeeded with that. But also, I mean, some of the injuries and other stuff, but just some of the nonsense on the side, I still didn't like, but. I'm not saying I'm giving him a fresh start this year, but he needs to step up or else he's got to go. I want to see at least a competent team that's competing in every game, even if they'll lose. But I think they'll be an 8-8 type of team. That's at least what I hope.
So do you feel comfortable with the offensive line, the moves that were made by Joe Douglas to say the offensive line's better, the receivers are better going into this year?
Yeah, I mean, and also receiving. I'm on you and Kevin's side. I mean, receivers is still a little lackluster in my opinion. I mean, Mims is going to have a lot of pressure in year 1, and I know he has a chip on his shoulder, which is great, but still has to establish himself. Perryman is a question mark all the time. I mean, I know he went off last year, but it's still a very weird system that we have on our offense. And Crowder in the slot, I always trust him. He's always there, and he had great chemistry with Sam last year, but I think a good offensive line, which I think it's vastly improved. I think a good offensive line makes every receiver better, but they still have to get open.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Now, what is your level of confidence in Sam Darnold taking a big step this year?
I've always been a Sam fan, even since he was drafted. I mean, I didn't watch him too much in college, but I just love the off the field mentality and how much he grinds. And I think it was a big maturity step when he went to Gase last year when things weren't working out, saying this is how I like things. I think that showed maturity, especially for a kid that's 22 and will be 23 I think over the summer or something like that. But I think he has the tools to keep doing it, and I think really understanding the same offense especially during the quarantine, all this time to study and everything, I think he should be able to just continue where he was last year, which the second half, not just the team, but I mean, he had a lot of top 10 categories in that second half, so I hope he continues.
Now, there's been a lot of stories about, Sam have to take a big step, which I completely agree with. I mean, he's got to keep growing as a young quarterback, but how much pressure is there on Adam Gase to maximize this offense, maximize Sam, and get everybody around him better?
There's a lot of pressure on him. Everyone has to execute the plays as well. I'm not saying, he's a perfect coach, but a lot of the time I think, a lot of the team may have, just been messing up. But I just think there's just a lot of pressure for him to actually keep his job in general and just prove he can be a head coach. I mean, it's going to be, his 5th year in the same division. You got to do something about it. You can't be called a quarterback whisperer or an offensive guru and just keep selling them goods. And I just want to see results.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And you look on the defensive side of the ball, they upgrade the secondary. You get Jordan Jenkins back, you get Brian Poole back, you get Pierre Desir, which is a nice move. Some nice, interesting guys in the draft. What is your expectations for this defense this year?
Well, defense obviously is going to play against some better competition compared to last year. But I think that, I have a lot of trust in Greg Williams. I think he's a great defensive coordinator, and I love the blitzing, using Kamala as an edge rusher, not just the safety as a linebacker, but even the cornerbacks. I mean, they couldn't have gotten any worse than last year. I mean, I think anything compared to what we had at corner was better than last year. So if they were technically top 10 last year, I think they should be similar. It's just we still need that one pass rusher that we always mention. So I hope we get that.
And how big could the return of C.J. Mosley be?
I think it's life changing. You saw those 3 healthy quarters he had. I mean, it only took him 4.5 minutes or whatever to get a pick 6 as a Jet. So I think the longer he's on the field, I think the more dynamic the defense will be. So I'm really not that nervous about the defense. But like I said, I think we need that one pass rusher left.
Now, would you look at like a Jadeveon Clowney, or are you looking at more like a Marcus Golden or Everson Griffin, or who would you want a free agent like that, or are you kind of just going to go into the season with what we have?
I want any free agent that's not named Jadeveon Clowney. I don't need him. Like, he's a great run stopper, but he's never had double-digit sacks. He's going to want a ton of money, and he's not even on the field as much as you would think. I mean, look at all the games he's been eligible for and how much he's actually played. He's had some injuries, but I just don't see the need for the team. I think he's going to be a little about himself too. I just don't want to stay with him.
All right. I mean, so you seem like you're encouraged by a lot of the progress the team has made. What would be a realistic expectation for this team this year? Do you think it's 6 or 7 wins? Do you think it's 8 wins? Like, what's realistic to expect that we should kind of demand from this team?
Well, first of all, like we need to see Sam take that big leap forward. I think, the turnovers, I think, will be a big thing to watch. But as a team as a whole, I think this should be at least an 8-8 team. I think the entire division has a tough schedule. So I know the Bills are definitely ahead of where the Jets are right now. But I don't think they're automatically the favorite because they still have to face the same teams we do. And with their division ranking, like, they still have to play a couple other teams that are a little harder, like the other 2 teams that we're not going to play. But I think it'll be a little more competition than people think, but I want to see an 8-8 team with some progress on offense. I don't want to see 31st offense. I want to be like, even a top 20 is a big improvement for me, which isn't great, but
So do you think there's a chance that the team underperforms, say they win only 6 games and they play mediocre, that Joe Douglas could pull the switch and say Adam Gase is gone, or do you think he has next year pretty much guaranteed?
That's tough. I can see it either way, but my gut tells me that he finishes the season. I mean, I just don't remember the last time the Jets fired a coach mid-season. But, hey, it's a new regime. New things can happen. But, yeah, what do you think on that? Do you think, personally, you get that Gase will stay no matter what?
Yeah, I for some reason, I think Gase has a built-in kind of – he's coming back next year. Like, they win 6 games, I think he's safe because this is kind of like their true rebuild year where they have their players, their guys, their first draft. I think they kind of like a lot of built-in excuses. So it's like I think he's – unless it's a colossal, collapse where that's 3-13 and they're, terrible. I just had a funny feeling when they say, next year's make or break for Sam, next year's make or break for Gase, and I kind of get that weird vibe from this team for some reason.
So do I, and I'm sure we've seen around the league too. Second team head coaches, they're never going to be a head coach again. If he fails the second time, he'll never be a head coach again, and that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I don't have it's weird. The whole power structure is just strange to me. Ownership is strange, so. You never know, man. Like you said, it's like a roller coaster ride. Every season, you never really know what to expect from this team. I guess that's what makes it fun. I don't know.
Yeah, fun's one way to put it, but it's weird, man. I mean, every year, like opening day, we all feel like little kids again. But I always have optimism going into the year, just because when everyone's 0-0, you never know. But I truly believe if we won Buffalo Week 1, even if Sam got sick, I feel like the mentality of winning would have been a little different. They had a taste in their mouth already, but. Yeah, we can't change the past, but I don't know. I always am a good fan to this team, even though they just don't give us anything in return.
So what do you expect out of Le'Veon Bell this year?
Well, it could be all talk, but at the end of the year, I know Gase and Bell, they said, we had some good meetings after the offseason, and maybe we'll do some more schemes that they did in Pittsburgh, but it's all talk until we see it on the field. And I know that there's a lot of reports saying that Bell he's excited to see this new offensive line, because I think everyone knew that it was total ass last year. Even him, he was a good sport. He is everything you wanted to see in a Jet, so he wasn't going to complain about it. But I expect him. I mean, I'm not going to say 1,000 yards rushing guarantee, but I think he'll be closer right around there. But I want to see him as a wide receiver, man. I need to see him in the slot like he used to be.
Did you think he lost a step or was diminished, or it was just really a product of just lousy offensive line play and weird play calling?
I think it was majority offensive line and play calling, but I'm not an expert, but I think there's a chance he may have, slightly lost a step, but I think we'll be able to prove that this year once hopefully there's better play calling and then the line's upgraded. But there's a chance that he took a step. What is he, 28 years old almost? So there's a chance that the year off could have done a little bit, but I have a lot of faith in him. I don't think that was really the main reason why.
And I guess the last question is, what were your thoughts on the draft? It seems like Joe Douglas accomplished a lot. He moved back. He seemed like he managed it pretty well. He had a blueprint of what he wanted. What are your thoughts on his draft class?
The draft class was great. I mean, the first 2 rounds, I don't think anyone could really complain about. I mean, left tackle and wide receiver, that was the biggest 2 needs. And then I liked every pick, to be honest. I love the trade downs, but especially with Flacco and stuff, I mean, I'm happy we got him, but I just didn't understand the Morgan pick. I really believe I know you guys talked about it on your show all the time. That's really where we needed to see the second wide receiver off the board in our draft. But besides that, I would say it's pretty good. The 5th round with Hall at cornerback, I thought that was a major steal. And I'm actually kind of excited to see what this punter does in the 6th round. So we'll see.
No, I completely agree.
And we're punting a lot. So
it's going to be our biggest weapon.
It pretty much is. I mean, just hopefully he flips the field because I mean, run it up the middle, 2nd down, run it up the middle, and then 3rd down, we're just always in the hole behind like our own 15-yard line, or according to last year. So hopefully, I'm not saying it's going to be the same thing, but if it is, hopefully he can just punt it 80 yards down the field.
Yeah, I mean, the draft class to me was encouraging because now you kind of get a blueprint of what Joe Douglas's guys are. They're hardworking, they're athletic, they're versatile, they're football guys, they're high character guys, and that's kind of we never knew what a Mike Maccagnan team was or player was. Now we know what a Joe Douglas guy is. But I guess the thing I'm always wondering is what is the identity of this New York Jets team? Do they even have an identity yet?
I think they're still trying to figure it out. I think you saw Douglas draft the 4 or 5 captains in a row, that type of thing, and then the Gore signing I wouldn't have gone with, but the leadership thing I'm not gonna go against that. But I mean, what's he gonna get I don't know, just all the 2nd and 1 carries, 3rd and 1 type of carries. I hope he's not prioritized over Bell, but I like some of the guys he's brought in. I think Flacco's mature enough where he didn't really help lock out that much in Denver, but I mean, at least in this press conference, he seemed very genuine that he wants to help the team. But going back to your question, I think that they're still looking for that identity, I think, as a group.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things you want to come out of this season with as well is, Sam playing better, but knowing what kind of offense are we really going to run? It's just we have no idea. Is it pass first, run first? We don't even know it's like. Last year was so just confusing and weird on so many levels.
It was a mess, man. And I don't know about you, but going into the season last year, I was like, oh, this is going to be a 9-7, 10-6 team. I mean, on paper, I thought it was. Last year's team was similar to the 2015 offseason. I thought we went all in for 1 year, with the Mosley, the Le'Veon Bell, not really building through the draft, but Band-Aids for 1 year. So I had expectations to be good last year, but just, that as we say, man, just nothing goes right with this team.
No, dude, I was the same way. Last year broke me where I just couldn't take the losing anymore. The expectations were high, and then the way they were losing, the injuries, the excuses, the embarrassment on primetime football.
There's times I wanted to stop watching this team. I mean, but I can never do that because if I'm ignoring the Jets, it's just it's not my normal. I've just been doing it for so long. But what was the last time you went to a game?
Last year I went to 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah, so I went to 2 games last year. So I went to school down in Maryland at Towson University. So I have a lot of fans that were in the Baltimore area, Raven fans. So I was at the Thursday night game, and then the very next week I went back to Jersey, where I live now. But my sister goes to the University of Pittsburgh, so we saw the Steelers Jets the very next week, and that was the first time I ever saw them win, dude. I saw them go 0-4, including the Raven game, and then they finally squeaked out the Pittsburgh game, and I was going nuts because even the Steelers game, I thought they were going to blow.
And that's the weird thing. You get the games against the Raiders, the Steelers, the Cowboys, where you're like, wow, this team is finally getting it. Then they'll have a dud like the friggin' Bengals or the Dolphins. You're like, this team is terrible. What are they doing? They're so inconsistent.
Yeah, I don't think they would have had the tiebreaker, but really if they just won the Dolphins in the Bengal game, dude, that would have been a 9-7 team. I think they would have been the 3rd seed technically. A tiebreaker was against them, but still, that's a major difference right there.
You can't make it up, man. It's just you just can't make it up. I heard a friend of mine texted me. He's like, Sam's not playing. I'm like, oh, stop it, dude. I'm like, there's no that's crazy. And mono,
no.
You just can't make the things up anymore.
And this is things that will only happen to this franchise. I mean, I remember my first game. It took me a while to get to a Jets game, but that was 2016, and that was against the Dolphins. And my very first game, that was a 33-13 loss in 2016 at MetLife. That was not a good first game. And then I think who did I see after? I think I saw the Chargers in December the following year. I saw the Vikings the very next year, Sam's rookie year. I saw them in the Vikings. And then last year I saw the Ravens and Steelers. But yeah, until the Steeler game, dude, I was just frustrated. It felt like every time I went to a game, they were cursed.
No, dude. I mean, it's. I've been with you, man. There's so many games and so many years. You're just like, oh, there's sometimes the bad outweighs the good because you're just there's so many just disgusting moments where you can't even just fathom it. But I don't know. Hopefully this year changes, man. We gotta hope.
Yeah, I hope so. But I'm jealous of what, you and some older fans that are older than me remember. I really wish I lived through the 98 season. I mean, being a one seed like that, dynamic, having a home playoff game, I don't know if I'll see that for a long time.
That was the best team I've ever seen, man. Like having Parcells and Belichick and Curtis Martin and Corbett, Keyshawn. I mean, it was just, you went in every week expecting to win and win by like 15, like 14. It was just like you had so much confidence, and that home playoff game was like an experience that I'll probably never forget because it was just so dominant, and the expectations were so high. It was, dude, they were so good.
Yeah, and just the stadium environment in general. I mean, it's just not fun going to MetLife at all. I don't know if it was literally just the transition from Giant Stadium to MetLife, but just like, it's just not loud enough. Like the fans seemed divided in the stadium. It just seemed so different back then. Everyone was on the same page, just rooting for them.
Yeah, the PSLs had a lot to do with that too, but I mean, it's definitely a different environment, and also winning. I mean, if you get a winning team in there, a lot of things change too. But now it's like by week 4, week 5, the season's over. Everybody's selling tickets and giving up, and that doesn't really help anything either.
Yeah, what other moves do you think they'll do before the season, if any?
I'm hoping Marcus Golden. I'll stick with that. I'm not sure if he signed anywhere over the last couple of days, but I want a pass rusher in the worst way, man. Like, I don't really want Logan Ryan. I'd rather just get a pass rusher that he can be situational, man. Just come in on third down. I don't even care. Just somebody else other than Jordan Jenkins.
Abraham's the last guy we had. And it's funny because I think, I'm sure we both saw it, but yeah, like even, the Twitter NFL page, they were even showing all the Abraham highlights, and I'm like, wow, I just wish we had that again.
Dude, he was a great player. But I mean, over the years, they've had some guys not as good as him, but they had like Aaron Maben and Jason Babin and all those other guys. But you want this guy off the edge. Like Marcus Golden's so consistent. Like if you can get like 8-9 sacks just off the edge, how can that hurt? Like, it just can't. It's just so needed.
Well, and tomorrow's an interesting day because tomorrow's June 1st, and that's when we get the Jermaine Johnson money. So I wonder if maybe this week we'll see something else happen. But just like I think the defense I think that's all we need. I think the corners are competent. I'm not saying they're great, but I think they'll at least hold the fort enough where they're not going to give up 30 points a game that easy.
Yeah, and you figure if you have Mosley back, that frees up Jamal Adams a lot more. I mean, Mosley coming back healthy and 100% changes so much for this defense. Adams could be better. Yeah, better corner play. That means the sky's the limit, man. But you add a pass rusher, Jesus, and you figure Quentin Williams should be better this year. I mean, he
better be.
I'm hoping, man. I'm trying to stay positive with him so far.
I wanted Josh Allen in the worst way last year. I just wanted to be outside edge rusher. It just how many times in the last decade did we go into defensive line in the first round, and it's just like, and they never pan out. I mean, it's like, get the freaking hint already.
Dude, it's every year we the same. Every draft preview, every year the same thing. When we get in a pass rusher, and it's like now it's like, all right. I mean, we still need one. So it's interesting, man. I think you're right though. That tomorrow's a big day. They have more cap space. They been like bargain shopping a little bit. Maybe they open up and go get one. Hopefully. Yeah,
I pray, man. But just I don't know. Just the defensive tackle moves have just pissed me off. I mean, because anything that's always been our strong set. I feel like I don't remember having a weak interior defensive line in a long time. It's just always off the edge. That's driven me nuts. And I think we have so many pieces. Like we're closer than people think, but it's just about executing. And then it starts with coaching also, which I still don't believe we have the right one. But until he proves me otherwise, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with you where we're at right now. It's like no excuses this year. Like no excuses for nobody. Like you want to see this team play a lot better, be a lot more competitive for 16 games and win 7, 8, 9 games. Like we got to stop settling for less at this point.
Hey, I just don't want to see any more primetime blowouts, dude. It just embarrasses us. And I don't know about you, but some of these losses, like the Monday night game, it shouldn't have happened to me. I'm like, I don't even know if I slept that night. That's how upset I was.
Oh, I was pissed. I was so pissed. It was just like the whole Sam and Go thing. It's like, dude, can we be just tired of embarrassed? Like, they weren't competitive. They were lost. And it's like, and make excuses for it. I'm tired of that too.
And we had such a high the week before with the Cowboy victory. We're just like, oh, we're going in there. We're gonna kick their ass on Monday night. But oh my God, just the complete opposite. And then you see Belichick laughing on the side, like, wow, like this is the most predictable offense I've ever seen.
Yeah, so that's why like this year it's like, listen, man, they had an off season of getting guys they want. They have, it's like, and year 2 for the offense for Sam. There's really, listen, they got to be better. They just have to. And Gase has to prove to everybody he's the right coach for his team. Like he's got to start doing something.
Yeah, and believe me, I'm sure you think the same. I want him to be the right coach because if he's here long term, that means something's working. And you just want to see the same system for Sam for a long time. If he goes into a third system in 4 years, not sure if I'm a big fan of that. But if it has to be done, it has to be done. I think if you put Darnold in Cleveland or in Buffalo, he'd be in the playoffs by now.
And that's the biggest concern. And that was kind of the reason why, I mean, looking back, I didn't want Gase to be hired. But it's like, listen, if he's here 2 years and you fire him, you don't want Sam to be, every 2 years a new coach, new coordinator, new offense. That's how you ruin a young quarterback. And we're trying to avoid that. And so far, in theory, they've been failing him. I think they have at least. So it's like, so you like, I want to be wrong about Gase. I want to be wrong so bad. I want to be great this year. They win. Sam gets better. And because the last thing you want is going into next year with more questions on offense about the coach, about the quarterback. Because at some point you got to pay Sam. I mean, he's going to due for contract, dude. And the last thing you want to do is, can he do this? Can he do that? Is he a winning quarterback? We got to get all these questions answered within the next, year and a half.
Yeah. Oh, and it's going to be an expensive contract if we keep him, which I think we will. I think I really do have. This is the one thing I do believe. I do believe in Sam. It's just hard to believe in the coaching. But oh my God, once Mahomes gets paid before Sam, the market for quarterbacks is going to be unbelievable.
You're looking at $40 million a year, $40 million a year, especially if Sam can prove that he can win in New York and after dealing with all this nonsense. And that's what we need. We need those answers out. And and the other thing is he's got to stay healthy, man. He's got to stay healthy, and he's got to just, as a young quarterback, reduce some bad decisions and make guys around him better. Like if you don't have an all-star wide receiving group, make them better by throwing better passes. Like it's a lot of things he can do, but there's a lot of questions, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all see the flashes. Like some of the throws that he makes, I don't think anyone there's just some people that really you don't see making those throws besides him. I think he has that Romo Brett Favre type. He has that high risk, high reward mentality. Not like a Jameis Winston throwing to the other team half the time, but you get what I mean. He's not afraid to make those passes in between those guys.
No, he does. He makes incredible passes. Then he'll make one where he's falling down and he throws up in the air, and it's like, oh, dude, what are you doing? That's like Sanchez. There's some kind of Sanchez stuff there. It's like, but he's young. He's super young. So yeah, but he's young, dude. It's like I'm willing to deal with that if he keeps playing better on a week-to-week basis. Listen, they're all gonna make dumb mistakes at some point, but let's not make a lot of them. And
it's encouraging. I love the fact that he's younger than Burrow and all these other guys. I mean, he's got 2 years under his belt already. So I would think going forward, same offense, just resume where you were last year, just improve. You got some better personnel, and hopefully with less pressure, with the better line. So we think there'll be less times with Sam on his ass and just chucking the ball in the air.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Steven, first of all, thank you for your time, man. I had a blast doing this. What is the best way for fans to follow you and talk some Jets football?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter at Steven Tyson 1, just literally at Steven Tyson 1, and just appreciate the opportunity, Tyson. It was great talking to you, and hope to be in touch in the future.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
No problem, man. Take care.
You too. All right, Steven Tyson. Can't beat a name like that. So thanks, everybody, for listening. Check us out. We're on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. Let's Talk Jets Radio, and we'll talk to you next time.